So I, is this working? Yeah, it's not working. I slightly amended my presentation because UNESCO UNESCO couldn't make it today. I'm the only person who could fly from Paris, apparently, so I'm very proud and pleased with this. Yeah, this one. And I thank you, Akram Athar, for this invitation. Is this working? Yeah. It should be working. Otherwise, I will use the one that's... Okay. I'm not sure it works. Does it work? Okay. So, I'm... Sorry about that. Okay, that's it. Yep. If you can slideshow and start from the beginning. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. So, I'm head of development for ICONEM. So we are an organization based in Paris, specialized in digital recording for heritage sites, and we focus on endangered heritage. So, so these are the countries where we work. The technique we favor is photogrammetry, which means that we collect large amounts of images, of data, and process them into 3D copies of heritage sites. So we are a very small team of 12 experts. So as I said, based in Paris. We have a team of archaeologists, architects, 3D artists, engineers, and R&D experts. So we operate today in 28 countries. So as you can see, mostly in the Middle East and Asia. We are active in mostly in countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. And we also have a program in Yemen with support from UNESCO. So the organization has been operating in those countries for, was founded 5 years ago, and in only 5 years we could produce over 250 digital copies of heritage sites. This technology is evolving very fast, and we can now work very quickly, very efficiently in all this on the field. So these are a few organizations we work for. We also work for universities. Obviously, we work for Sorbonne and MIT, among others. And the 3D copies we produce are used by the creative industries in documentaries on TV, or they're used increasingly by tourism organization. And we have a special partnership with UNESCO, which obviously is not exactly a tourism organization, but we do a lot of work for them. And also we produce digital exhibitions. I'm going to show you an example later on. So just a quick word on digital recording, because we are often asked, why should we create 3D copies of heritage sites? We can use 2D information, photos, to assess the condition of sites. So what's the advantage of working with 3D? So 3D documentation makes damage assessment more precise and more accurate, because you can have a full picture of a monument, and you can see all details down to 1 millimeter in most cases. So it's a very precious tool for damage assessment. So our work in Syria also showed that 3D documentation is crucial to monitor looting activities and destruction. I'm going to show you a few images later on. And what we do a lot also is digital anastylosis. So that's about virtually rebuilding, reconstructing monuments that have been destroyed. And it's a very useful decision-making tool for possible reconstruction. And also, We had a project with the site of Pompeii in Italy, and we found that 3D documentation is very useful just for regular site management, even not in a conflict of crisis. And finally, the 3D models we produce of archaeological sites allow archaeologists to study a site remotely. So this we found with European archaeologists working on Syrian or Iraqi sites can actually, thanks to 3D, continue studying an archaeological site without going to the field. So how do we do this? As you know, there are mainly two different techniques to digitally record a site. So there's photogrammetry and laser grammetry. So maybe you're more familiar with laser grammetry. So an organization like SCI-ARC, for example, uses laser, and we tend to use photogrammetry more. So because in the countries where we work, you need to work very quickly. There are security issues, and we use drones extensively for digital recording. In places like Mosul, for example, we work for UNESCO to record the entire old city, and our team could work only from two main avenues that were more or less free of landmines, and then they send the drones to side streets where it was absolutely unsafe to walk. So it's easier to use drones in such context rather than carrying a laser scanner. So we use a specific kind of drone that I'm going to show you later on that are called long-range drones, and that allows to monitor a site that is absolutely not accessible. So that's something we did, for example, in northern Iraq back in 2015, when the areas were still occupied. Then we send those long-range drones, and they can fly for about 100 kilometers with the same batteries and record sites under occupation. So the final result is what we call a multi-resolution 3D model. So that means that you can zoom in and have different levels of detail, down to 1 millimeter or up to 5 centimeters for very, very large areas, for example. So obviously this means that we have to manage massive amounts of data to produce 3D, and as I said, technology is evolving very fast on this. And in all our projects, we have a dedicated training program. So everywhere we go, we train local heritage professionals to those 3D documentation techniques. So this is an example of a 3D model. So this, what you saw just before, this is a Greek island called Delos. So we scan the whole island with drones again, and then we also scan specific areas on the ground to get more detail, because drones alone don't give enough detail for 3D documentation. So we tend to mix terrestrial and aerial data capture. So this specific project we did for archaeologists, and they use this on a daily basis when they're not on site to check measurements and to study the site remotely, as I said. So on the right-hand side, you see a few of the functionalities. So we have a lot more now. This is a project that dates back to 2016. But basically what archaeologists or architects can do, they can make measurements, they can make sections, they can zoom in. So in that area, the accuracy is 1 millimeter. And then when we zoom out and you look at the whole island, it goes down to 5-7 centimeters, because obviously you don't need such a high level of detail. So we did similar work on another island in Sudan called Sai, S-A-I, for French archaeologists as well. So this is really photogrammetry, aerial photogrammetry really allows to cover very, very large areas For the Mosul project, it's about 4 square kilometers that we surveyed this way. And similarly, we produce a 3D cartography for UNESCO. I thought they would present that project before. But I'm going to show you just a picture later on. So you get a full 3D cartography of the old city of Mosul, and you can really have a very, very, very precise damage assessment analysis with details of each wall, basically. So this is the kind of tool that archaeologists and architects use in terms of 3D documentation. And this particular project was produced in partnership with École Française d'Athènes, which is a school of archaeology in Greece. And so we have about, as I said, 250 similar 3D models for sites as varied as city centers, in the context of crisis. So we mentioned Aleppo, Mosul, and also smaller monuments. Oops. Sorry about that. So this is also. So then another technique we use to digitally reconstruct monuments that have been severely damaged. So this is an example, taken from Syria, the Crac des Chevaliers, a castle in Syria. So we collect images. Oops. Sorry. We collect images. Basically, what we do is we collect large amounts of images from the internet, from tourist photos, because this monument before the conflict in Syria was popular with tourists. And we trained Syrian archaeologists to 3D documentation, and that's what we managed to produce. That was back in 2013, 2014, because we've been working with Syria for a long time. And then they collected all the images, we processed them in Paris and managed to produce a partial 3D model of this castle. And what we could do then after this is compare the conflict before the condition before the conflict and after on the right-hand side. So we could really locate damage and analyze. So, and the 3D rendering on the left-hand side is based on tourist photos, as I said. And a few years later, in 2017, we had an opportunity to get funding from UNESCO to have a complete study of this monument, and this is the 3D rendering, the 3D result of this work for the exterior parts and the inner part. And this work is being shown in Paris in an exhibition on this specific monument, Crac des Chevaliers. Okay. So this is the long-range drone I was talking about earlier. We call it a plane drone. So this is a specific device that we use to monitor sites that are completely inaccessible. And this photo, this is taken from a video shot in 2015 in a place that was then the front line between the in northern Iraq. So we sent this kind of drones over the sites. In that case, it was Khorsabad. So this 3D rendering dates back to 2015, and we had those images analyzed by archaeologists at Sorbonne University, and all the red dots you see are tunnels dug by looters on the site. And So they counted at least, I think, 60 only in that area, 60 tunnels dug by looters. So while the site was still occupied, we could have some information on what was going on there. So talking about digital anastylosis, again, this is a process we are developing also in Angkor. This is Palmyra in Syria, the Arch of Palmyra, but we also developed this in Angkor in Cambodia. So the idea is to scan the stone blocks that are on the ground and try and reposition them where they were before the monument collapsed. So all these red parts you see are now collapsed. There was an explosion that destroyed this, and then we try to put back every stone block to its initial position. So this is an R&D approach, so it doesn't work every time, but it does help archaeologists and architects to analyze damaged monuments. In April 2016, we sent a team to Palmyra in Syria. It was the first foreign team on site after the liberation of the site, the first liberation. And this is a 3D rendering of the museum of Palmyra, the site museum as it was at the time. So there were hundreds of sculptures that were very, very much damaged, and it was important to get a precise idea of what the museum looked like before it was cleaned. The Syrian archaeologists brought back everything that they found back to Damascus, and they cleaned everything. But it was important to get this idea of what the museum was like just a few days after the liberation. And this is a 3D rendering of the museum. So now we're in Libya, so that's one of our most recent projects. We sent a small team to Libya last spring. So this is the archaeological site of Leptis Magna on the seaside. It's listed on the World Heritage List. And we sent a team to first train local archaeologists, as we do everywhere, and collect images of the sites. It's and to analyze the impact of this situation on this specific archaeological site. So we found that the site was in very good condition, and that the main threat currently, hopefully, is environmental, because there are blocks going down to the sea. There's a lot of erosion, and but we found that the site was in very good condition. So this is the Arch of Septimus Severus, which is the highlight of the site of Leptis Magna. And this is the team of archaeologists we trained. So basically what we do is it's a lot about practical training. A 3D documentation is not something you can really learn in a classroom. It's where we have a theoretical session at the beginning, and then we take them to the archaeological sites, and they help capture data. They're trained to use drones in some cases. So you can see on the right-hand side, this is a tablet for to use drones, and they also learn how to use telescopic poles for terrestrial data acquisition. So it's a kind of hands-on training. It's very important to be on the site. So this is an extract from a video we produced for UNESCO on Mosul. So UNESCO has put together this Revive the Spirit of Mosul initiative that you probably certainly heard about. And ICONEM was the technical partner. We collected all images on site, we sent a team first in February this year, and a team of 2 people to record the condition of the old city. And we organized a second mission in June, and between February and June this year, the situation had changed dramatically because people are going back, which is good, but there are still a lot of explosion changes in the buildings. And so we produced a specific study of a selection of historic monuments, for example, this house. And we also did a lot of work on the Al-Nouri Mosque because it's a flagship project of UNESCO. And, oops, is this working? Oh, no. Yes. And this is another exhibition. Oh, it's not working. Sorry, I can show you on. I will show you a short video on, or maybe if I have just a few minutes, I will show you just some images of the work we're doing in Angkor, because Yves Hubelman, our president, is currently in Angkor to present this work. So, and I'm not sure it works. Oops. If I can show some. 1 minute, so I show something else then. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Wow. 30 seconds of each then. Okay. So these are just a few images of Angkor. So it's the web platform we put together. So see these results are all the images that are collected. So okay, so you see basically how it works. And then to finish, I will just show you the trailer of a big exhibition we produced in Paris. Oops. Showing images of Aleppo. Oops. Screen. Yeah. And this is the Al-Nouri Mosque. And so it's being shown at the Arab World Institute in Paris. So we're showing images of Mosul, Aleppo, and and also Leptis Magna, basically the images you see. Well, thank you for your attention. I just give you my details if you're interested to be in touch. If I find it. Yeah. Okay. So don't hesitate if you have any questions on our project.